first guest, who is an ecologist and writer with a particular fondness for hedgehogs. His books, his books, A Prickly Affair, Hedgehog, and The Hedgehog Book, I don't know what the middle one is if it's not a book, present a gorgeous, scientific, beautifully photographed deep dive into these beloved creatures. He's here tonight to tell the story of a song that changed his life. Please make a lot of noise for Hugh Warwick!
I feel like I'm going to really shortchange you all now. I'm not going to talk about hedgehogs in the slightest. If I'd known that was going to be the introduction, I'd have probably totally done a different story. Could have done a lovely song called The Hedgehog Song, but that's kind of very rude about bestiality, so probably not. Okay, so actually this story is completely unrelated to anything I've ever done on the stage before, and it's one which is about seizing the day. It's about grabbing hold of a moment and hopefully it working out for the best. And it begins a little bit, sort of a bit like a cliche. Me, December 2002, standing on Oxford railway station platform, terrified, utterly and completely terrified. I'm more terrified then than I've ever been in my entire life, and I have done Women's Institute talks. It was like a complete cauldron of cortisol and adrenaline and every fight or flight hormone charging through my system. And I'm there waiting to catch a train to go and meet a woman. And I am so utter. And in fact, I've got to go back 6 months. 6 months before this, I got a phone call alerting me to the fact that my biological mother wanted to make contact with me. Now, that wasn't the big reveal it might have been. I had always known I was adopted, but I had never been interested in trying to sort of pursue this because I've discovered that being a child of parents is quite a challenging thing. And maybe this is an exercise in nature-nurture analysis, but I was being modelled for something which I was not destined for. My father was concerned I was going to become a mummy's little boy, so I went off to a boarding school just after my 8th birthday, run by Sadists and Perverts. That was great. And after that, I was sent off to a public school which moulded you into the city, the church, or the army. And I arrived and realised I was an atheist, developed a deep suspicion of the argument that industrial capitalism really was going to solve society's problems, and formed a peace society. And our one trip to Greenham Common did not go down very well. So basically, square pegs, round holes, the whole way through. And so being alerted to the fact that my biological mother wanted to get in touch, it came at a time when I'd moved into a house with my now wife, who's up there. We'd been talking about children, we're going to get married, there's all this stuff going on. And so, oh my goodness me, it'd be interesting, it'd be really quite fascinating to find out where I actually came from. Are my biological relatives a bit more like me than my adopted ones? But my adopted parents made it very, very clear that if I was to pursue this, they would consider themselves relegated to foster parents. So I was left with a bit of a quandary, a massive amount of curiosity, with also this fear of complete loss. And I was struggling enormously with that, so I did something deceitful. I spent about 6 months telling them I hadn't made my mind up whether I was going to pursue this, during which time I began the process of tracking down or talking to my biological mother. I'd done the research. Most of these events don't go necessarily particularly well. I knew there's a high chance it would be a bit meh, and actually quite a few stories where it's been really disastrous. So I didn't have high expectations, but I thought, oh, the curiosity, I have to give this a go. And so to begin with, we would write letters to each other via the Children's Society, the rather inept organisation that facilitated my adoption back in 1966. So we didn't know where each other lived, and they could check whether we were being particularly odd or not in the letters. And over time, we discovered that my mother's name was Anne. She was married to a now retired barrister called Edward. They travelled to Fiji and to Hong Kong following his work. She was a primary school teacher, and she was in love. She loved nature. She absolutely adored nature. And it was beginning to feel, she's a musician as well, and so beginning to feel this sort of, I'm beginning to feel my family. And then we had the moment when they decided we were sane enough to meet, but I had to go and collect my file from their offices in Peckham, and they sat down and gave me this great big file of paper about the whole process from 1966, and it was it's fascinating. It turns out I've got a world-famous relative, but I'm not going to tell you who they are. And so it was determined we could meet, and I discovered the reason for the now. Why was it that she wanted to reach out to me now? And the reason was the rules had changed so that she could. And her point was that what would I think if I started looking for her and find she hadn't tried to find me? I thought that was actually quite wise. And the other reason for now was she had determined that by her 60th birthday, at her 60th birthday, she was going to stop. And that was it, no more. Because she had to get on with the rest of her life. My birthday had been a day of extreme unhappiness for her entire life. The adoption was not her idea, she was young. So we agreed to meet. I had one moment of trying to gain control over this, and that was I decided I didn't want to speak to her until we met. I don't know why, that's a feeling, I had to control something. So we were exchanging letters and agreeing to meet, and the only day we had when we could both find to meet was the day before her 60th birthday. And so that's the day I'm standing on the platform at Oxford, and I'm waiting for my train up to Liverpool, and the tannoy crackles into life to say, we're terribly sorry, but we're fucking incompetent, and the train is cancelled. And so I had to phone her up, and because she was going to meet me at the station, and the world didn't end, which was actually quite a relief. The train journey is a bit of a blur, but then I arrived at the station in Liverpool, and I knew what she looked like. I'd seen a photograph of her, she had a photograph of me, but I wasn't expecting her to be quite so slight, quite so petite, so fragile. And I met her on the platform, and we hugged. And it's taken me time to work out what happened in that moment, but we fell in love at that moment. Now, I know it's a romantic thing, falling in love, but actually that's because it's a new person in your life and something clicks and wow, it's amazing. And normally your relationship with your parents, if you're lucky, is one which grows organically over time and reaches a great crescendo if you're lucky, but you don't notice it, it's incremental. This was instant, and it was so overwhelmingly powerful. So we walked back to the car holding hands, and it's taken me again years to realise what a thing her husband did. He drove us back to Birkenhead, and we're sitting in the back of the car holding hands. He's just seen his wife go to the platform, meet another bloke, bring him back to the car, and then she's sitting there holding hands with him. And we've become good friends since, Edward and myself, but that was a challenging moment. We had lunch, we had lots of conversation, light supper, and then she was going to take me back to the station. And that was it, our one little moment to see how it goes. And during that time I discovered all sorts of amazing things. Yes, she's a passionate lover of nature. Her garden is this gorgeous thing. She spent a fortune on birdseed. But also, when she was at school, her nickname was Badger. And her friends still call her Badger. And I'm Hedgehog, she's the Badger. It's like, this is all just so absolutely amazing. And my biological father, who died long before, was a complete shit. But he was a campaigner. He'd marched with Martin Luther King. He'd helped bring speakers over from the civil rights movement to talk in Liverpool. So there was this campaigning connection, there was this wildlife connection, there was this feeling of home, there was this feeling of absolute connection. All of the things that my adopted parents feared most were coming true. I never changed my relationship with them, I should say, but it was a really special moment. Anyway, Anne took me to the station, back to Liverpool, and about to catch the last train back to Oxford. And guess what Branson did? Last train was cancelled. So I had to spend the night in the spare room, and I was there for her birthday. And her 60th birthday, there was no fanfare, no special thing, because her husband always forgot. But at least I remembered. And then she took me, so this is the track, we're getting to the track. She took me back to the station, and I was catching an early train back down to Oxford. And I should say by this stage, I was quite full. You know that feeling when emotionally you are really sort of really full, but there's nothing specific, it was just this absolute sense of something's going to give. And got onto the train after saying goodbye, and I then took the first table on the left. I got myself the corner seat. I got a mini disc player with a mixed disc on it, and normally it's in my musical taste, quite sort of Radio 3, sort of like folk music and world music. And the song which we're going to hear is by a band called Seize the Day, who you might not have heard of. They're a festival band, political campaignery sorts. I met Theo from the band first at the Twyford Down protests in '92, and Shannon, who wrote the song, I first met her at the Newbury Bypass protest in '96. And they are beautiful and wonderful people. The whole band are amazing. I'm an odd father of their daughter Rosa as well. So I'm very deeply connected to the band, and
and they hate this song. And they hate it because it's really difficult to play live, and so they just never do it. So the song is called Seize the Day, and I was sitting in my little corner, we're chucking our way south, and the track comes on, and this has never happened to me before or since. I just started crying. Absolutely unbidden. Tears just started falling, and then it was just like a crashing wave as I was absolutely overtaken by sobbing. And the train was utterly packed. I had people sitting all around me, a line of people standing. I was doing the full Monty. Well, not the full Monty, actually, that's a different. That was a different train journey, and they've asked me not to do it again. So I was absolutely sobbing my heart out, and then the most amazing release for myself. And as I was sort of coming out from it at the end, I looked around. No one had noticed. No one had reached out a hand and just said, you all right? And part of me was going, what a bunch of shits. And another part was going, you could have just been part of this story. I could have been up here now telling you, I'm this amazing person, this bloke in a suit, he reached out and he said, are you all right, we're firm friends now, and it's really lovely. No, they were all a bunch of self-absorbed wankers. And so anyway, so seize the day, if you please, this is my go-to call. If you do see somebody sobbing on a train, don't be a twat. Thank you.
Hugh Warwick, everybody. That was